Can the 2021 North Atlantic hurricane season start early this year? It sure looks like that, as we're looking at possibly for a subtropical storm to form very, very soon here within the next 24 hours for the northwestern Atlantic. And this will continue to be a threat here as we go into the weekend hours here, looking at possibly for some pretty intense winds of over 55 miles an hour. And even the National Hurricane Center is looking at this as they now have a 90% for the next 5 days, and I do believe a 80% for the next 48 hours. So we're watching possibly for our first tropical system of the year. It has sure been a very, very, very long time since I've had the North Atlantic hurricane season tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center on one of my videos. The last time I did this was November, so we're talking basically around a half a year since I have brought this type of topic on my YouTube channel, and it's just so mind-blowing how quickly we have gone through winter and spring and now getting back to another hurricane season. Let's just have to see if it's going to get as active as we're expecting here. But right now we do have our first ever highlighted area or advisory of the year here, 5 days after they start issuing the advisories now. So we do have a 90% chance for cyclone formation here, or cyclone formation within the next 5 days here. And just believe it or not, this was a lot lower this morning when I woke up. And now the shocking part is we have an 80% chance for the next 48 hours. And I do believe early this morning that was at 40%. So we're seeing an extreme amount of confidence within the National Hurricane Center that this will become a subtropical storm within the next 24 hours. I mean, we have an 80% for 48 hours. So there's definitely a medium to high chance for formation within the next 24 to 36 hours. Many watching out for tomorrow to be the official day that we get. I believe it's pronounced Anna. It's either Anna or Anna. I think it's Anna. So until our first ever storm of the year develops, and that'll be Anna or Anna. I really not really sure, but this will most likely be subtropical. It is really lopsided and one-sided. It's very similar, at least right now, simulated IR, visible loop. It looks like Arthur and Bertha. I mean, so it's really, really similar to what we saw earlier, almost exactly a year ago. So we're looking at a non-tropical low pressure. So that's exactly how you know it'll be subtropical, located about 650 miles northeast of Bermuda, and is now moving northward. And recent satellite wind data indicates that this system has gale force winds. So it's definitely starting to get its act together, strengthen here, which is exactly why this confidence percentage has dramatically increased since this morning here. So we're looking at possibly for it to go into warmer waters tonight into Friday, and just know these waters aren't actually that warm, which is why it's a little shocking where this location is. And it will most likely become a subtropical cyclone near and to the northeast of Bermuda on Friday. So Bermuda is going to feel the impacts of this, but we're not looking at any landfalls. This is going to most likely stay out to sea. The only concerning part is that this this area where it can develop is getting closer and closer to Bermuda. So if it were to develop a lot later, it can maybe very, very, very close to Bermuda. But at the moment, we're not looking at any landfalls according to future tracks. But let's go ahead and get a look here at the probability of this system to develop later on into the Weather Bell website. So here's looking now at the European tropical depression probability. So looking at basically the probability of tropical depression winds here. And as you do see, within now it's the next 3 days, so 72 hours, we're looking at a pretty good chance here, 90 to 100% chance for tropical depression force winds here. We're watching out for that formation. So basically there is 100% that we're going to be seeing a depression with this here, and this is extended this 50 to 60% gets all the way down into Bermuda. So there is definitely at least 50 to 60% for having at least tropical depression winds here within the next 72 hours. Let's now go ahead and look here later on by the next 1 to 4 days. That will definitely increase as we go into northern Bermuda, getting to a 60 to 70% chance for a tropical depression wind. So it's going to get awfully close to Bermuda, and Bermuda either way will get some pretty windy conditions. As we go into 1 to 4 days, this chance for tropical depression winds will gradually decrease to 80 to 90%, but obviously it'll still be a depression at this point. And once we go later now into the next 2 to 5 days, conditions will dramatically, I guess, ruther away or erode away. Basically, I guess I want to say erode away. And that's exactly why we only have a 60 to 70% for tropical depression winds. And then as we go later into the next 3 to 6 days, that'll completely drop. Let's now go ahead and look at the European tropical storm probability and look at the 0 to 3 days. A 90 to 100% chance. So we're definitely looking at a subtropical storm here for sure. Let's now go later on as it gets closer to Bermuda, late into the weekend now or into the weekend days, and you do see Bermuda's only at 10 to 20%, at least for the next 1 to 4 days. But within the next 0 to 3 days, they're actually at 20 to 30%, and not that far from 30 to 40%. So there is a small chance Bermuda will get tropical storm force winds. And let's not go ahead and look at the European probability. As you do see, there is no chance at all for hurricane force winds with this. So definitely looking at only at a subtropical storm. That's exactly what we saw, at least for the first 3 storms. Obviously, Arthur, Bertha, and Cristobal last year. So it looks like we're following a pattern. Like the National Hurricane Center did mention, this was going to go into warmer waters. And let's just say they're not really that warm. I mean, look at where this is where the highlighted area, this highlighted area is kind of right here. And look at the waters, 21 degrees Celsius, possibly as warm as 22 degrees Celsius. And that is very, very cold. I mean, when we were talking about storms in like October, November, moving up possibly within the region, it was a very low probability that they would continue to thrive because of waters like this temperature. But now here we are in late May, having a possible or a very good chance of having our first storm, Anna, forming in these waters, and it's very, very uncommon to see storms or systems develop in waters this cold here, which is another reason why it's going to be subtropical. So it's not only subtropical because of the wind shear and the amount of wind shear there is, and it also because there's such cold waters that this thing is really struggling to getting a lot of structure. However, the low pressure is really tightening up here, and there's a lot of strong winds wrapping around in I believe it's a clock. Yeah, it's moving it around at a kind of clockwise way, so it's going to possibly make it at a point where it is going to be lopsided at some point, so it's going to make it subtropical. So typically you don't see tropical storms form under 20, I believe under 25 degrees Celsius, so we're 21, 22. That's definitely surprising. And it did say it's going to go through warmer waters as it goes towards Bermuda, and that is true. It'll get nearly 23 degrees, maybe as warm as 24, where 24 is pushing it. We're basically talking maybe only 23 degrees Celsius. So either way, these waters are very, very cold. So it's going to be a very short-lived tropical, subtropical system. It won't be named for more than 36 hours, maybe 48 hours, which is why you see that probability for tropical depression wind and tropical storm winds dramatically decrease once we get past the next 3 days. So here's a current look at Invest 90L. So obviously right now this is Invest 90L. Obviously it goes 90L, 91L, 92L, 93L, 94L, 95L, 96L, etc. until we go back to 90L. So obviously this is our first invest of the year, our first highlighted area, first advisory. So it's gonna start getting interesting. But this is where our low pressure. It's very, very open. I mean, it's obviously an invest, so it's obviously not gonna look that really good. But you can kind of see the subtropical vortex here, the vorticity as well. We're seeing very little vorticity, but there is going to be vorticity on this, and you can kind of see that vorticity, and it is kind of clockwise. I mean, you can kind of see as well, even down here, some kind of clockwise amount of vorticity there within the storm surrounding that low pressure. So this already does have a almost full-on kind of clockwise spin. It's not completely going to be subtropical, or it's not going to be completely counterclockwise, because if it was full-on counterclockwise, it'll be completely tropical. But obviously it's going to be kind of more like one-sided when it comes to the subtropical winds. And kind of be, this is going to be the side right here, the western. It's going to be most likely the western quadrant will be the ones that have the subtropical winds here. But you can kind of see we are starting to see some strong amount of convection there to the northern portion of that storm there, as well as some strengthening convection as well here. So as it does go overnight into tomorrow morning, it's going to be it's supposedly going to be a lot stronger, as it's not going to rapidly intensify obviously, but it is going to gain a pretty good amount of strength here according to models. and the computer models, yeah. But we're starting to see signs of convection developing across this outer layer outside the low pressure and some strengthening structure near the low pressure. So it's looking very unorganized right now, but that should change by tomorrow morning. Here's a look now at the Invest 90L model intensity guidance. So this is going to be looking at computer models, and this is obviously showing it's already at tropical storm winds here at 40 knots. So according to the latest update here, I believe it's updated. Yeah, this is 18Z. So this is basically just updated not too long ago, around an hour or so, something like. Actually, no, 18Z comes out. I believe at 4 o'clock. This is basically around, yeah, an hour old. So according to this latest update, this is actually at tropical storm wind status, so this could very well be subtropical at the moment. It could very well be Anna at the moment, so it's definitely very interesting scenario at this point that this could very well be official very very soon, which is why I said there is a very good chance that very high chance we can see development within the next 24 hours. But the National Hurricane Center is going to have to make it official. But according to the computer models, this is already at 40 knots here. But as you do see, there is going to be possibly a small strengthening trend. The ship model, which isn't the most accurate, gets us up to a 55 knots. So I believe that's around 62, 63 miles an hour, while majority of the models keep it at around 45 knots. So basically getting maybe at 50 miles an hour. And that's supposedly going to weaken as early as the next 18 hours or as late as the next 72 hours. But like I did say, it's going to really weaken very, very quickly here. Here's a look now at the tracks. Just like I did say, this is most likely not going to impact any land. It's going to get very, 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 very close to Bermuda, but obviously, thankfully, it will really have a small wingspan when it comes to tropical storm gusts and just tropical winds in general. So it should not impact Bermuda that bad. So here's a look at the GFS ensemble model. So you can kind of see it's going to be going kind of northwest at the moment. Then it should be going straight due west, which is gonna be the reasoning why this cone has shifted a little bit, or that area of development has shifted to closer to Bermuda. And then it goes straight down to the southwest. The catch is if it does not do the northern turn like that, like expected, or just a little bit later, Bermuda could very well get impacted straight on landfall. But I really doubt that. I doubt that's something to go that deep to the far south. But it does seem like it is going to go straight down to the southwest, going straight for Bermuda, and then go straight back, following the high pressure to the north, and going straight up to the north out to sea. Let's go ahead and look at this CMC, showing very similar scenario, but taking this northern turn, or this northwestern shift a lot sooner. So it's going to get decently close, I'd say, around 100 miles within Bermuda. Maybe just under 200, and then go straight as well to the northwest. So we're not looking at any, to the northeast. So we're not looking at any direct landfall or anything like that, at least at the moment. But let's now go ahead and get a look here at the GFS 18Z and see what they are showing. So as we get now into later this overnight, we're going to get this to as low as 103 millibars. So there you can kind of see those isobars very closely together. That's when we're using those strongest winds. Those winds should be, like it says right now, according it's already at around 45 miles an hour. So they should be strengthening up to 50. And you can kind of see the outer layers of that rain. But the thing is, it goes overnight there into those so-called warmer waters. And it's going to allow for the strengthen a little bit more to 1,002 millibars by tomorrow early morning. Here you're going to start getting that rain as early as around, this will be 3 a.m. Bermuda time. So 3 a.m. earlier in the morning there. And as it does get it's going to get awfully close to Bermuda. Look at that, getting very close there. It's going to be by tomorrow. Tomorrow at this time, in the next 24 hours, it's still going to be at 1,002 millibars. It's going to be a lot more structured. You can kind of see still that northern portion of that low pressure is still the most organized. You can kind of see there's going to still remain that most amount of convection, possibly still that most amount of vorticity in that portion of that storm. And that's going to go, again, still at 1,002 millibars. However, there is going to be the high pressure way up here to the northeast. It's going to be, I guess, like a magnet, and kind of attract this low pressure and avoid it from going any further southwest or west. So it's going to avoid Bermuda getting hit and the United States getting hit. So we kind of have these two little pressures right here, kind of pushing it that way, and then pushing it that way. But obviously it's going to gradually go to the northeast here. So these two, it's kind of like that. What was it that I can't remember what it was, but there's a similar scenario in the Pacific one for the Philippines. There's a very similar scenario. There's two high pressures, one to the west, one to the east, and it did not hit the Philippines because of one high pressure, which was west of the Philippines, gradually was stronger and allowed for that storm to go a lot more to the east here. It's going to be a very similar scenario. So this is going to be at 1,030 millibar, so it's a decently strong, or it's got a decent base. That's going to allow for staying away from going any further west. So this high pressure as well going to kind of try as a magnet to as well bring that further to the east here. Actually, I kept saying east, or sorry, I kept saying west. Okay, so this is going to be to the west of the low pressure. It's going to gradually make it go eastward. So it's going to stop it from going any more to the west. And as well as be the little magnet like